You guys. Well, if you couldn't tell by my extremely thick accent, I'm from New York City. We love, hey, anybody here from New York? All right. One thing about New York is we do travel. You go to any conference in America, you see those bloodthirsty New Yorkers dying to get their slice of the cannabis pie. We're going to talk about that today. I'm one of them. I've been a part of this industry for about the last 20 years as an advocate, as an activist. And now I really spend my time both as a brand ambassador for a number of different companies with my trade association. We form a lot of different community events in the tri-state area. And we also do a lot of professional coaching. And that's how I got the name the Hemp Coach. So if anybody's interested in learning about how they can get into this industry legally, right? You can go to thehempcoach.com. You can learn about the different things I do for individuals and organizations. So the first thing I want to talk about to make this very simple to everybody is how many people are wondering how they can get a job in the cannabis industry? Start a company, you're immediately employed. End of story. You guys can leave now. No, I'm just kidding. But that's the truth. If you can figure out how you can be a business owner right now, you can get a jump on potentially a large amount of people that are going to be vying for a very small amount of jobs by starting a company and starting to get your feet wet. Now, obviously, you can't sell weed legally unless you own a dispensary, and that's a multi-million-dollar investment. So you might ask yourself, how am I going to get into this business if I can't sell weed? Well, I own two companies right now. One of them is Cannabis and Hemp Association. I own a consulting company, and I distribute products that are legal in all 50 states. So it is possible. I do this full time. I'm not rich yet, but I started basically with no money. I mean, I had about $10,000 saved that I had managed to save through the corporate jobs that I was working in the past. I was a sales manager for AT&T. I worked for Hilton as a sales executive. I did a lot of things in the time that I was an activist and an advocate, and I used that money to invest in a very small company, and I was able to grow that into something that enables me to make over a six-figure income a year, and I haven't even hit my 2-year anniversary yet. Actually, the 2 years that I've actually been legally operating in this space will be May 24th. So within 2 years, with very little bit of an investment and just a lot of hard work, I'm doing this full time, and I'd like to thank the people that have known about my company and probably been to our events to help contribute to that. So we're going to go through a PowerPoint. I'm going to go through it quickly. I just want to share some stats and I want to share some insight. How's it working? You got me on froze? Okay, great. All right, so I like to just first bring clarity to this industry. So this is a very simple model that I created so that people can see the basic 4 facets of this industry. And I'm of the belief that most of the Fortune 500 companies, whether you know it or not, are participating in all 4 facets of an industry similar to this. Like, so for example, you're going to see that companies are involved with politics. They try to alter policy. They try to start advocacy groups. You may not even know what the name of them are because they might be subsidiaries of much larger corporations, but they're trying to bring people together to advocate for certain change that enable them to write certain policies, that enable them to create monopolies, that enable things to go their way. You may have heard about the alcohol industry, the pharmaceutical industry, oil and gas, tobacco. They do all that stuff. They're very smart. They create these different... Matter of fact, anybody ever see the movie Thank You for Smoking? Anybody ever see that? That's a great example of how that goes down. People are like the biggest part of this industry. High times take advantage of the culture. The culture of cannabis itself is just absolutely explosive. There is a multitude of things you can do about that, starting by creating a brand. Has anybody ever heard of things like terpenes, which are chemicals from cannabis? Or maybe a product like live resin, right? There are people that are big fans of terpenes, big fans of live resin. I mean, you can create a t-shirt company around that. You can create products that just express, you know, some sort of desire about that. You don't necessarily have to sell live resin, which could be illegal. You can actually just sell products that bring it awareness, and people are like, oh my God, that's cool, I think live resin is so great in Colorado, I want that hat, I want that shirt, whatever it might be. So obviously the medical marijuana side of things, the THC side, is the side that most of us are prohibited from getting involved with, directly selling it. But the culture around it is very available. You know, there's so many different things, from just coming up with a brand name that you can sell to dispensaries. You can license bottles with logos that are much more interesting than a lot of these dispensaries in California, you know? Like, there's a lot of edibles companies in California that have these, like, they sell stuff that just come in little Ziploc bags that look like they got it in the black market, but the reality is they're selling it legally. You know, come up with some clever packaging, a brand name, and help these companies become more professional. You know, teach them that once recreational becomes legal in California, the market's going to explode, and they need to be prepared with a brand that can help them extend. There's a lot of opportunity in that in California. For those people that are looking for jobs, working in a dispensary in the East Coast is going to be a much different experience than it would be, let's say, working in Colorado or working in California. I'm going to tell you why. Back in let's say about 2010, good friends of mine in Colorado, they're a company known as The Incredibles. They're the largest edible producer in the industry in Colorado. They started their business with $5,000. Nobody on the East Coast is going to be able to get into this business for $5,000 selling THC products. They built a multi-million-dollar enterprise. The people that are coming into the East Coast that are getting into these vertically integrated, which means that they are growing weed, they're processing weed, and they're dispensing weed, they're operating in terms like, most of them are operating in terms like monopolists, in the sense that they're not necessarily even advocating to legalize weed. Once they get their license, they want to keep it illegal because they got a monopoly. The more that the market opens up, the more competition that they have. So in New York, we've got 5 dispensary owners. I've never seen one of them advocate for legalization. None of them have any interest in that. You know, they got their license. Now it's about, you know, how long can I maintain this oligopoly that I have? So the idea, like, when you see like people in Colorado, they're very friendly. Like, you go to a dispensary, some of them have dreads, tattoos, all that stuff. Yeah, in the East Coast, you know, that's not going to be the case. For the most part, most of the states are going to adopt a more pharmaceutical approach to cannabis. So for those people who really like that, you know, that freer subculture feel that the old school cannabis culture was really all about, you're not going to really, I don't believe, find that in the Northeast. You know, I don't know what these things are going to be like, but just based on what I'm seeing in Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and New York, and Rhode Island, I mean, maybe Rhode Island's a little bit more loose, but definitely, you know, it's not generally like that. I'm sorry to disappoint people, but that's just the reality. But for those people who really don't care, and they really want to be just involved with medical, I mean, we're still, let's just face it, you know, it's going to be some time until we have a fully developed recreational market on the East Coast, in the Northeast, even though Vermont's looking like that's a possibility. It's still going to take time for that to build out. There's still going to be regulations and nobody's going to know what they are. And I think that those companies will be very protective over their own reputations, and they're going to expect people to act in a very different manner than you might see in California, where things are a lot more loose. So, for those people who really want to get a job in the job market of cannabis rather than being an entrepreneur, I really do recommend that you start getting involved with advocacy and you start learning about what the needs are of people that are really informed about cannabis, because the advocates, the activists, this is what they do, like all day, 24 hours a day, and you can really kind of get to know your customer. You can really kind of be a part of changing things the way you want them to be. And just keep this in mind. For all of you people that are pretty much here, I think that pretty much all of you are an advocate in some way, shape, or form, even those that are just getting educated. When you're in the crowd, you might be Tom, Dick, Harry, Mary, Jane, and Molly. But all you got to do is call yourself the Cannabis Association of American Irish Workers. And just like that, you're an association, you're a group. And when you meet people that find that whatever your shtick is, like, we advocate to make sure that, people have access to cannabis and that nobody's excluded of any age. Somebody else might say, wow, I believe in that too. How do I get involved in your association? Just like that, you've built a network. But when you walk around a place like this and you're just, hi, I'm Bill James, you have nothing for anybody to be a part of. But so I am a firm believer in having a nonprofit advocacy group to go along with whatever your for-profit activities are, because as a for-profit, people don't really want to get involved in your money-making capitalistic opportunity. They'll buy from you, they might be a loyal customer, but they're not looking to follow you, they're not looking to contribute, volunteer, only if they can get something out of it, because they know that you're a profiteer. But everybody has an opportunity to just call themselves an association, make up a vision, a serious, not just make it up, but have a clear and concise thing that you're advocating for. Why? What was the purpose in which you came here today? Is it because you want to have access to your grandparents to get access to cannabis, your children, your friends, your family members, an ethnic group, whatever it might be? If you advocate for that, people will get behind you. Last but not least, hey, let's talk about the $1 trillion industry, which is hemp. At the end of the day, as much as I love THC, it's really like a sliver of the pie. And when you think about that, Prohibition has already built in a $75 to $85 billion a year industry in the black market, which every day we're taking the curtain off of. And at this point, we've got about a $6 billion industry, and projecting in 2020 for this to be about a $22 billion a year industry. As more of the curtain of prohibition is lifted, that $75 to $85 billion a year that they're reporting in the black market is an industry. So you already know that the minimum market cap is $85 billion for this industry, and that's what the government's reporting. And if that's what the government's reporting, we all know that they don't want to admit that it's really a $300 billion a year industry. They just don't want people to know that there's just everybody smokes weed, right? So, and if they don't, they're about to, because they're going to find out how medical great it is and everything else. So, when we talk about hemp, in 1940, whatever it was, Popular Mechanics put out, probably a lot of you know about this, Popular Mechanics put out an article, that said that hemp was a $1 trillion industry in the 1940s. So that tells you what it could be today. I'm a big believer in using the sizzle of marijuana to sell the steak of hemp. So what I do is, with my business, I get people in, they know that I advocate for marijuana, they know that I teach people about marijuana, but I use that platform to educate people about the sustainable living piece of this industry. One plant: food, clothing, shelter, medicine, spirituality, and culture. Get it done. Human beings want to be colonized on Mars in 2050. What's the problem with that? The carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is so bad, we need to figure out a solution. Are we going to go plant trees on Mars and wait 25 years for them to grow and deal with the carbon? No. We're going to be planting cannabis all over, because cannabis will grow within 90 days and take more CO2 out of the air than trees will. They say on Mars, we're going to need to build on Mars. They say that the soil is right. If we infuse polymers into the soil on Mars, we can actually build buildings and structures on Mars. They're going to be using the cellulose from hemp. It's the best cellulose. There has been structures found on Earth that are 1,500 years old in India that have been built with the cellulose from hemp. So this is also, many of you may know that hempcrete, or that we could build a concrete mixture with lime and hemp, and this is going to be big as we, as human beings, continue to explore and expand. I'm using Mars as an extreme example, but Elon Musk has already said by 2040 it's a done deal. He's going to be bringing up a colony. So CBD is great. It's completely unregulated by the FDA. It doesn't mean that you should go out, throw some hemp oil in a bottle, call it CBD oil, and rip off the consumer, which is what a lot of people are doing in the industry. I'm not suggesting anybody here in the show is doing that, but if you look online, there's a big issue with that, and the Hemp Industries Association and other hemp-based associations are trying to create some sort of regulation so that there's some testing available. And if you manage to check at our booth at the Cannabis and Hemp Association over there, we have lab tests for our CBD. We'll be happy to show you how to read them so that when you walk around the show, you can ask people for their lab reports. You can check and balance if they're doing their diligence. The idea of hemp is, you know, so many great things. It's completely legal. The only thing you can't do is grow it. But you absolutely can import products. You can find distributors of finished products. I work as a distributor for a number of different hemp companies. You can become a distributor. There's a lot of different ways to get into the hemp business. And I just want to clear something up for those people who don't know. Is there anybody in this room who's not clear about the difference between hemp and marijuana? Is there anybody who's not clear about that? All right, so good. We're past that point. So we know that hemp has almost no CBD. So check this out. Marijuana Business Daily put this chart out. If you don't know who Marijuana Business Daily is, they put out charts about the industry every single week. They do the largest business-to-business trade show in the industry twice a year, one in Orlando, Florida, one in Las Vegas. They're a phenomenal resource. This is one of their charts. This is, we're looking at total combined sales in 2016. Now, the dark orange is just dispensaries alone, and the light orange is the total economic impact of all things. In other words, the vertical integration. So, for example, the cultivators, the processors, the ancillary businesses are the light, and just the dispensaries alone are the dark. And as you can see, those of you who are looking for a job as a bud tender, specifically, or maybe a store manager in a dispensary, the jobs that you're going for are going to be in hot demand. There's going to be a very small amount of dispensaries in comparison to the amount of total jobs available in the industry. So I created this little thing just to help people see that just in terms of dispensaries are going to be growing at a much slower rate than the industry overall. So I really want to encourage people to do their diligence outside of the dispensary model. And we're going to go on and we're going to go forward. But if you look at that, you're looking at about an 80% differential between non-dispensary revenue and jobs available potentially and within the dispensary itself. So projecting some career opportunities from 2013 to the end of 16, cannabis grew from 6.4 to 17 billion. In the 3 years that Colorado legalized, there's been about 11 billion in industry growth. Industry has multiplied in size 2.5 times since Colorado went recreational. So the entire industry has more than almost tripled in a matter of 3 years. Projected growth from 2017 to 19. So looking forward the next 3 years, which is important because in 2016 we're going to have a lot of legalization action happen. So you're going to see a big growth. You're going to see in the next 3 years, Marijuana Business Daily is projecting a $21 billion growth rate. So we're going to go from 11 billion in 3 years, over the last 3 years, to 21 billion over the next 3. So it's really time, if you have not really gotten up to speed with what's going on here, now's really the time, and it was actually 3 years ago at least. So approximately 20% of all the cannabis sales came from dispensaries. That number is projected to stay the same, and continue that growth rate right through 2020. About 20% growth across the board with dispensaries. And 80% of all careers in cannabis are from the outside of the dispensary models. So how does cannabis stack up against other industries? I mean, I'm sure, I don't know if anybody's ever really looked into this, but in 2016, according to the Special Coffee Association, coffee was a $48 billion a year market. Why did I pick these 3? Well, I mean, these are the 3 that we most talk about. 2013, tobacco was a $35 billion a year market, according to the World Lung Foundation. Alcohol is a $211 billion market. But look at this, in 2016, the total beverage market was $364 billion, alcohol accounting for 60% of total revenue. That's pretty outstanding, right? Talk about a powerful lobby they must have, right? That's amazing. I wish that was cannabis, but all right, so total legal sales of cannabis expected to hit 6.7 billion by the end of the year. think about that. I mean, it's only been a few years we've had legalization, and we're already going to be a fifth of what the tobacco industry is in 3 years of growth. Trending towards $21 billion industry within 4 years. So, I mean, this industry, like I said, we're not growing an industry, folks. It's there. We're just lifting the curtain on it, and everything's popping right up. So, what's going to happen with all these businesses popping up? They're going to need products. They're going to need services. The professional services, obviously your doctors, your accountants, your lawyers, consultants. There's going to be just a lot of people throwing money around just to get in because they're seeing all these people making money. So you want to be there to have something viable that they can invest in as they grow. So, interesting, this is just really to show job growth. 2014 to 2015, within 1 year, Colorado had a 68% jump in jobs available. Now, if I was an employer looking for a job in this space, I would be going to classes, I would be getting to know people. You're in the right place. I mean, places like this, there's a lot of people like the Gavita people, the Leafly people, several others. They know a lot of people. I know a lot of people. You should get to know these people and, start making those networking connections and start to get to know people, because once there's jobs available, just stay in touch. You never know. Like, somebody could say to me, hey Scott, do you know of a good person? Because I don't really, I've got just all these people that I have no idea. You know somebody great? Yeah, I know this person. They've been following up with me every 3 months. They seem serious about the business. That's how you get jobs. It's all about who you know. We all know that. All right, so check this out. I really wanted to isolate for you guys 16 new jobs that have come into this industry. All right, these are 16 new jobs, new job creation. That's what it's all about. Bud tender, grower, infused product manufacturer. So somebody who's doing, we have an extraction tech, we have a glass blower, dispensary shop owner or manager, a bud trimmer, somebody who makes sure that the bud is cured properly, security, compliance. Compliance is huge. I mean, the regulations are so big. I know in Colorado, they have people that just look at the paperwork, making sure that it's accurate every single day. If the marijuana enforcement division comes in, they want to know, where are your IDs? Have you been checking IDs? Yes, we got it all. Consulting, very big. I mean, think about this. Every single state is going to have different regulations and rules. But a lot of these companies are applying for licenses in different states. It's like nothing else. They need to completely adjust their business model on a state-by-state basis. The more and more that you can get, that you can carve into that, and you can speak to a specific area of the country, that you know everything, you can get them going. I mean, there's a lot of money. These licenses, I know some people that have paid over $1 million just to get the license written, just the paperwork, 4,000 pages, insane. Administration. My favorite is tourism. Taking people from other countries, giving them access to medical cannabis in recreational states is going to be huge. Has anybody here ever heard of medical tourism in general as an industry? Has anybody heard of medical tourism? No. Medical tourism, people travel from country to country to get medical treatments that they can't get in their current country. Some of them might be like changing the gender of a child if they want a preferred gender. They can change their eye color in certain countries, like in Turkey, you can have your eye color oriented. There's a lot of people that are suffering from very serious conditions that they can't get treatment for in their home country. You can just take them to Colorado on tour, give them access. There's a huge, huge business developing in medical tourism. And if you want to learn more about medical tourism, that could be a great way as an ancillary business to go into a direction which nobody else is going. Well, how do I know? Well, I spoke at the World Medical Tourism Congress last year. I introduced medical cannabis tourism to the medical tourism community. I'm the first person that ever has a published journal in Medical Tourism Journal. So I can tell you right now, that community is extremely interested in moving people from opioids to cannabinoids. Very, very interested in that process, because there's a lot of people suffering in pain. Most people don't realize that 80% of the world doesn't have access to affordable pain treatment. Well, grow cannabis. Done. End of story. All right. So Reviewer. So for example, like Leafly, like they review strains. You might review like groups. You might review companies. You might be like a Better Business Bureau for cannabis that vets these pop-up companies to make sure that they actually are doing what they say that they're doing. If I was a cannabis company, which I am, and somebody had a legitimate organization, they wanted to vet mine, I might be willing to pay for that because there's a million organizations out there, and I'd want to separate myself from the rest of the pop-up companies. Brand ambassador is a big one. You know, there's a lot of companies out there. Let's say, like, if you're into THC, like the Dab Stars or Open Vape, who does vape pens. There's a lot of different vaporizer companies popping up. You got Magical Butter. They do an in-home extraction machine. All these different people, they can't really afford salespeople. So working as a brand ambassador helps them to really gain exposure in all the different markets that they're at. And you could be a brand ambassador for a multitude of different companies. You don't need to just do one. You could be like a brand ambassador. One day you're wearing the Magical Butter t-shirt, the next day you wear an Open Vape t-shirt. Start a blog on YouTube, things like that. And media and journalism. You know, media companies and journalism, you've seen it pop up. I mean, I remember a time that all that there was High Times. Now it's like, every time I turn around, it's like I'm on another email list from some new publication. It's amazing. I don't know how they survive. They survive because there's businesses popping up everywhere. And who's going to find out about you if you don't advertise? All right, so check this out. It's a lot of people are, a lot of experts, a lot of so-called experts, they all say that they're analysts. They all want to predict where this business is going. Well, I'm here to tell you today that this business is largely very unpredictable. So I really take with a grain of salt what all the so-called analysts say, and I'm going to tell you the reason why. Number one, there are too many unknown variables for any research firm to accurately gauge. For example, are they accurately predicting who our next president is going to be? Because if it's Bernie, we're descheduling it. If it's Hillary, we're going medical and state by state. If it's Ted Cruz, we'll never see legalization. You know, I mean, I'm just saying, like, it can be different things, you know? So just like that, it's like, okay, well, how do I predict this, all right? Also, internationally, who's to say that, let's say, I'll give you a great example. Hawaii has written in their medical bill that they are ready to do international importing of cannabis. They're not doing it currently, but it's in the legislation. Let's say Israel decides that they want to start doing importation of cannabis to Hawaii. Like, how does that affect the growth rate? You know what I'm saying? It's just so, on an international scale, the UN can decide. We just had the UNGAS, the UN General Special Assembly for Cannabis. You know, they didn't make that many drastic changes, but that could happen. And if that happens, who's predicting? There's just too many things to predict. You know, here's what we do know, is that there's a $75 to $85 billion black market. Right now, we're at about 7. So we know that we have that to work with at the very least, okay? We're talking about overly restrictive medical regulations in most states. You know, who's to say that some well-funded advocacy group doesn't happen and think people start lobbying and all of a sudden conditions change in a much faster or slower manner? You know, maybe a group like Kevin Savet's Smart Approaches to Marijuana gets backed by a Fortune 500 company, slows things down. I'm just trying to bring this basic stuff to your attention, take a quick picture of it. Who's going to predict how much involvement Fortune 500 companies are going to have? You know, all this stuff is just so malleable. I just can't imagine any person sitting up here with a straight face like, yeah, this is what's going to happen in cannabis in 20 years. Yeah, okay. So, impact of the growth of the hemp industry. I mean, there's just so much. All right. So, expect a hardcore capitalist employer in the Northeast. You want to go to work for corporate cannabis? Welcome to the Northeast. So here's what it's going to be. You know, we talked about this a little bit. Tight regulations, they cause a lot of stress on the business owners. There's going to be a high potential for layoffs, mergers, and acquisitions. One day you're working for the nice guy, corporate guy. Next minute you're working for a subsidiary of a tobacco company who's not telling you. It's going to be a totally different environment you're working in. Don't expect advocacy. We talked about that. Expect a corporate cannabis environment and prepare accordingly if you want to be an employer. So that means don't get arrested, by the way, in layman's terms. All right, so here's one thing I just wanted to show you guys. This was on the 13th. I did a United States search for jobs in cannabis. For those of you people that are looking for jobs, notice nobody east of the Mississippi is hiring in cannabis. So if you're looking to get a job in cannabis, there are opportunities. Go west, young man, and to the West Coast, and you will find some jobs. Plenty of them. I mean, right there's like 250 jobs. I don't know how many, but there's a lot of jobs that are on the West Coast in Colorado. And really, if you want to get a job back east, they're looking for people that know what they're doing, and not because you've smoked a whole bunch of strains from your dealer. So, all right, so here are just some advice for people that want to differentiate themselves. Definitely, one of the things is watch your language. I want to quickly talk about that. It doesn't mean don't curse a lot. It means some people like myself, we don't like the term marijuana. I don't even use it unless I'm in a public setting like this. You know, my company is Cannabis and Hemp Association. The people I work with, we believe in cannabis as a sustainable resource. You know, using the word marijuana in my circle is just like, we know you're not one of us because we don't even use the term. We consider it racist. We consider it pejorative over a plant that can, you know, take us away from suckling the corporate teat of pharmaceutical and, you know, so many different things that do damage to our environment. So we don't use pejorative terms like that when we talk about cannabis, when we talk about high THC. We just talk about cannabis and we talk about hemp, and that's how we talk. So, I mean, you don't know, like, who you're talking to in the industry. If you're, like, in the recreational crowd, like out west, everybody uses the term marijuana. It's like nothing. You know, just within my circle, we don't. You know, so it's like, just know who your audience is, and you know, think about how you smoke. Talk about, like, I had people apply for jobs, like, you know, for what I was doing, and they were like, you know, I know so much about weed. I know how to, you know, I can tell you so much about dabs and all that, but I'm not interested in any of that stuff. So, you know, just be careful when you talk to people in this industry, because there's so many facets of cannabis. Just be careful. Don't think that they're automatically on your level. You know, limp in and be respectful and treat it like any other job, and you know, that's your best approach. Okay. Oh, understand, an industry leader is different from an enthusiast. I know a lot of people want to get into this business, they want to make money off this business, but it's really not for everybody. It really isn't. And there's nothing wrong with being somebody who just enjoys a good smoke, a bongin, a dab, and somebody who's going to be a thought leader, an innovator, a worker, a professional. You know, it's okay to just be a hobbyist. You know, it's fine. There's a lot of people that like to drink, and that's totally cool. Working in this industry is not necessarily for everybody. So, acknowledge the risk of being stereotyped as a stoner. People think that that's going to go away. I predict it's going to get worse and worse, because I know that there's going to be companies that are going to be putting forth, you know, a lot of propaganda to keep people into that mindset, to keep people going in that direction. Because once they get you going in that direction, they can sell products to you for those type of people, like clothes that have certain brand names or styles that appeal to those type of people. So when you're talking about a high-level business executive, like I like to believe I am, even though I'm not, but I'd like to be, you know, the first thing I want to do is, I don't want to depend on your market to sell my product. I want to create my own market. So if I see that nobody's tapping into a certain field, or there's a certain field that's being ignored, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to create that. I'm going to use advocacy, I'm going to create ads, I'm going to do all sorts of cool stuff, maybe hire a celebrity to wear whatever, and just like that, I'm going to perpetuate that market, and I'm going to sell to that market. So basically, like I said, most important thing is don't get busted. All right. So the pro tip here, this is really to talk about entrepreneurs. If you're an experienced entrepreneur, getting into the cannabis industry is very simple. One thing I want to encourage people to understand, and this is really for the people that have never owned a business before. Is there anybody here that has never owned a business before? Okay, understand this. You are not required to file any paperwork to start a company, okay? Once you get to a certain point of income, you have to file your taxes. I mean, there's no question about that. You need to organize as a corporation. But you can start a business, you can create a website, you can get going, you can start distributing products. You know, as long as you're showing that revenue, you're not doing anything illegal, you can build a brand. Don't get held up by paperwork. A lot of people get held up by paperwork when they want to start a business. You don't have to do that, don't think that way. Don't let that be a barrier of entry. Create your idea, make sure that it's legal, make sure that your money has traceability, that you're transparent, so you're safe, and get into an industry And honestly, go to thehempcoach.com and contact me if you just want to set up a 30-minute call. I do that for free. I give people like a little get it started information so you can help get started. That's where number 2. Number 3, the Northeast loves cannabis. Listen, people want to know, how do I make money in cannabis? Give them something to buy. You can't make money if you don't have something to buy. A product or a service or an idea. Create intellectual property, a book. Make a song or an album. That's a published album. Distribute a product or create one. Or have a service, some sort of a service. Help patients get access. Do something, but it's a product, a service, or an idea that you need to have in order to generate revenue. And then you want to know how to grow it? It's real simple. Find somebody who's interested in cannabis and ask them if they want to buy. People make business very, very complicated, folks. It's as simple as, you know, I'm here in a place where a lot of people obviously like weed. Would you like to buy some? The guy's like, yeah, why not? I'm here, I like cannabis, you know. I mean, honestly, like, we made a whole bunch of sales at my CBD booth. People just came over and bought it. They didn't even ask me a question. You know, they didn't even know what CBD was, but they came here, they want to just experiment, try stuff, buy stuff, give them something to buy. It's a, you know, you may not grow to be a millionaire just by having something to buy, but if you don't have something to buy and you're not asking them to buy it, you're never going to have a business in cannabis. All right, so where there is no market, create your own. Okay, that's where I love, that's my favorite thing. So I created my own market. I started an advocacy group called Cannabis and Hemp Association. We did meetings for a year in the Hilton. I educated people for free on all aspects of cannabis. When I brought products forth to market, I had all these people that were following me, all these people that respected me. They thought of me as a subject matter expert, and they knew that I wouldn't screw them with a crappy product because I already donated so much of my free time. So once you know, then I was able to create my own market. So think about, you know, how you can gain influence and then build a following. You know, and I always believe advocacy and activism is the way people really, and the most important thing is be an advocate. Don't be someone, they always say in this business, like, come out of the closet. I like to say come out of the shadows, okay? That was already taken, come out of the closet. We come out of the shadows in the cannabis business, folks. You come out of the shadows, you let your friends, your family know you're involved. People think you're courageous, they think you've got guts, and that's what it takes right off the bat to let people know that you're serious about this. And you know, you talk about it every day. You make it your primary interest, not secondary to automobiles and sports. Number one, when you're out there on social media, when you're talking to people. Okay. Literally unlimited opportunities in the cannabis business in ancillary markets. I mean, if I had an hour and 2 hours, I could sit here and go on and on, just spouting off ideas. Because I've thought about it for, you know, 20 years. All right, pro tip. Becoming an entrepreneur is the easiest road to employment. Now, how cool is it to walk into an interview at a dispensary or a cultivator and say, how you doing? I know that you guys just opened up for business, but I want you to know that I've been living in New Hampshire for the last 3 years, and I built this awesome CBD distribution company, and I'm really interested in getting involved with marijuana, but I just did this CBD thing because, you know, I can do it legally, and I want to be legal, and I want to be clean, and I'm willing to let go of my CBD business if you would want to hire me. You know, I'm not, they would be like, well, how much did you make? And, you know, you just tell them, like, hey, not enough, otherwise I wouldn't be here right now. But it's not what I'm passionate about. What I'm passionate about is weed. That's why I'm here today. And the person will be like, wow, that's interesting, rather than everybody else who comes, you know, whatever. So, you know, through ancillary businesses is a great way. You know, you become your own employer. Then you step up and you're like, I've got business experience in this business, 2-3 years. You've got a dispensary, hire me. The person is most likely going to give you an opportunity, and you might find that you're making so much money that that job you wanted in marijuana you don't want anymore. All right, last but not least. This is how you find me, folks. Meetup.com/cannabis and hemp. This is where we're going to be. We do trade shows all over the place. Facebook.com, CHA Worldwide, cannabisandhemp.org. And we're right directly where I'm pointing. That's our booth, and you guys can ask me any questions you want. Before I go, I made sure I left time for Q&A. So, I know I talk fast, and I have a heavy New York accent, but I assure you I'm not a Yankee, Giants, Jets, or Knicks fan. So go right ahead, and anybody have any questions, shoot, fire away. All right, thank you so much for coming.